to be predicting every single U.S. Senate election race this November. So we'll start out with the likely red states. For that, we're going to start with the state of South Carolina. The state is generally in the safe and occasionally likely rating. Now is shaping up to be a good year for Democrats, so I do think it'll move from its normal safe rating down to likely. Ultimately, it doesn't matter too much, still a Republican-held seat. Lindsey Graham is no longer the Republican nominee for this seat, but I don't think it will matter to most extent who the Republican nominee is. They are by far the wide favorites to win. So that's going to be the state of South Carolina. Then we're going to head down to Florida. Going to put this into the Republican column, into the likely red. The state used to be very competitive for Democrats. Obama was able to win it on several occasions, and the state voted blue, but in the Trump era, it has since drifted further and further to the right. Even once reliably blue Democratic counties like Miami-Dade have even voted Republican, Democrats really lost their grasp on this state, and I think is slowly going away, well, actually pretty quickly going away from the Democratic Party. So that's going to be the call there in the state of Florida. Then we're going to head up to Montana. In Montana, going to give it the same rating, that being a likely red rating. The seat, the incumbent Republican, is retiring, so I do think that will give Democrats a slightly better chance at winning this seat. Ultimately, I don't think it'll happen, but that is going to be the call there in the state of Montana in the likely red rating. And then we're going to now go, I think that will be the end of the likely Republican states. We're now going to head over to the likely blue for that, for the Democrats. Really just the one state, that being the state of Minnesota. Minnesota, definitely not fans of Trump and Republicans in general. The state will, I'm almost certain, will be in the Democratic Party's column. That's going to bring Democrats to 44 to Republicans 46. And then I think the rest of these will either be in the lean or likely rating. We'll add a tilt, that will come in handy for later. But for the lean red races, really, I think there will just be the one, that being the state of Nebraska. The state, a bit of an interesting situation. There's an independent who's running for the Senate race, and he is most likely going to lose, but I do think he will make it a narrower margin than really any Democrat would have been able to if a Democrat had been running instead of Dan Osborne. So I think he'll put up a good fight, but for now I'm going to put that state remaining in the Republican Party's column. Then we're going to now go to the lean blue seats. We have the state of New Hampshire. Going to put that into the lean blue column. This state I feel the most confident in calling of all of the lean states, for the Democrats at least. So that's going to be the call there in New Hampshire. The one I feel the next confident about is probably going to be Georgia, where it is going to the Democrats by a lean margin. Jon Ossoff is a actually fairly well-liked senator with quite a good fundraising game from the state of Georgia. He's the incumbent Democratic senator, and I think he will do quite well in his election bid, enough to win it by a fairly comfortable margin. It is still a competitive swing state. Georgia will be that way probably for the next while, but I do think that Jon Ossoff will be able to win his election by a fairly considerable margin, most likely somewhere in the lean to tilt range. For now, we'll go with lean. And then we have the state of North Carolina. This is actually going to be the first flip of the prediction of a state going from red to blue. The incumbent Republican Senator Thom Tillis is currently in the Senate, and he has been in the news quite a bit for standing up to the Trump administration on some key votes, and he is retiring. So that puts an open vacant spot in the U.S. Senate, and I think that Democrats have arguably the better candidate at the moment. Roy Cooper is a strong nominee. He was former governor of the state of North Carolina, and I think that he will do well enough to win North Carolina by a fairly significant margin. That's going to be the call there in North Carolina. And then we're going to now go up to the state of Michigan. I'm going to put that into the lean blue column as well. The state, generally I have it in the Democratic Party's column. Depends what the margin ends up being. But for now, I think Democrats would be able to win Michigan by a margin potentially more than tilt. Democrats and Republicans do have the slight edge in the U.S. Senate prediction for the at-large prediction market for the entire Senate, but when it comes down to the individual races, ultimately, last I checked, it was virtually up to Ohio, and we'll get to Ohio by the end of the video. But we're going to go through the rest of these states, and then we're going to head up to Maine, where I think this will be the second flip of the prediction. This is currently Susan Collins' held seat. She has been in the Senate for quite a while, and I think that most likely she will lose this November. She's been in the Senate, but, weirder things have happened. She's been able to fend off a variety of high-name notable Democrats in the past, so she could surprise us and end up winning again. But for now, I think the most likely scenario is that it flips to the Democrats in the lean blue column. And then I think that will be the end of the lean blue seats. The rest of these are going to be either in the tilt red or tilt blue rating. We'll start with a tilt red state that I feel reasonably confident in, that being the state of Iowa. I think that at the moment, according to the betting markets, the odds are looking like Iowa will elect a Republican senator, but potentially a Democratic governor, which would be really fascinating. But I think Iowa, if things continue to go well for Democrats, there might be a possibility. But for now, I think the most likely scenario is that the state remains in the Republican Party's column. And then we're going to go now to a Democratic state that I feel slightly confident in calling. I think really all these tilt ones will be close, so it is important to know that. But as far as Alaska goes, just alternating between Democrat and Republican held seats, I think Alaska will go to the Democrats. Mary Peltola is a strong nominee, and I think that she'll do well enough in that race. And then I actually feel more confident in Texas going red than I do in Alaska going blue, but just wanted to alternate it red and blue. But that being the state of Texas, bit of an interesting race here. Democrats have what I would say is a pretty strong nominee in Tallarico. I think that he will do well enough in this race, but I don't think it'll quite be enough to win the actual election. So I think that Ken Paxton is largely favored to win this seat in the U.S. Senate, but who knows, it could potentially go the other way. And then that really just leaves us with the state of Ohio. I think the state will really be the one that is the state that determines which party controls the Senate. For now, I'm going to put it into the tilt blue column, but really I could see it going either way. I think that Ohio might be the inverse of Iowa when Ohio elects a Democratic senator and a Republican governor, but things really could change. For now, that's the prediction, the narrowest possible majority for Democrats, 51-49. Like I said, Republicans still have a really strong chance at maintaining control of the Senate. It will be an uphill battle for Democrats, but I think that it is certainly a possibility. So that is going to be the final prediction, 51-49. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks. Bye.